Yesterday, I received threatening and vulgar messages from someone who contacted me about coaching and speaking opportunities. But here's the thing, the threats were not the first red flag, they were actually the last ones. The first red flags showed up long before that. And if you know what to look for, you'll never look at manipulative people the same way again. So let me tell you a little bit about what happened. I had somebody reach out to me on social media and they asked me if I was competent and secure enough to help them with their issues because the coach they had been working with had decided not to work with them anymore. Now, I don't coach, actually. I do have a transformative system, but it is self guided. So I referred this person to that. This person said they weren't interested. Um, then I didn't hear for anything for a while. And then they came back. And this went on for a few months where there was persistent effort to get me to change my mind. There were offers of money, offers to fly me places, offers to go and speak here if I worked with this person one on one outside of that arrangement. But there were other details, other requirements that if I did agree, that there were stipulations that actually were a threat to my personal safety in a very serious way. So that tells you a little bit about what happened. But the thing is I knew where this was headed before the first insult and that first very provocative comment was made to get a reaction out of me. So, what does this look like in real life? How can you spot these red flags? Well, the first red flag was when he questioned my competence before we had even established any kind of introductory or any sort of professional relationship. It was right out of the gate saying, are you enough? Can you be secure enough? Are you, as if I had to prove myself to him, even though he's the one that reached out to me. And manipulative people do often start by putting you on the defensive because if you're busy proving yourself, they have control over the conversation and over the narrative and over the whole flow of everything. This also creates in your own mind as the person on the other side of this some self-doubt, where you feel like maybe you should prove yourself. I mean, oftentimes I see this in professional situations where people will begin to list all, like their resume or their education. In personal relationships, people will do the same thing. And this does happen in personal and professional circumstances. So just be wary of people that right off the bat want to provoke you into over explaining and proving and justifying. You shouldn't have to somebody that wants to engage with you in any way, whether it's personal or professional. There's a good way to establish that trust and to establish, who everybody is and what everyone has to offer without making it seem manipulative. Now, red flag number 2 is wanting special treatment. I love a narcissist. I've written 3 books about narcissistic abuse, and the special treatment, the fact that they feel entitled to have you do something to accommodate them specifically because they're special. They always are, aren't they? That's so fulfilling to their ego. And the problem with this is that, especially if you've come out of other situations where you tend to be a people pleaser and you tend to seek approval, you do come off as very eager to, want to accommodate them or find some resolution that is kind of a consolation prize, meets their needs and yours. They're not interested in your needs, though. They don't care what you want. They just want what they want. And unfortunately, they will go to great lengths to achieve that. And one thing to keep in mind here when you do run across people who want special treatment is that healthy people respect boundaries and systems and, just general etiquette, courtesy. Manipulative people will always believe they're the exception. You'll notice this if you're even at the grocery store. There's always that really impatient person standing in line, tapping their foot and looking at their watch and, making comments and looking around as if they're so inconvenienced to have to wait in line. You'll see it at restaurants when there's people who, in a busy, full restaurant expect that the waiter or the server or whoever is supposed to just psychically know that they would like another drink or that they need something, even though this person's running around trying to accommodate everyone else. This happens in our families too. I see it with partners. I was married to somebody like that for 25 years that, it didn't matter what our son, even when he was a baby, what he needed, it's what my then husband needed. It was prioritized above all, at least in his mind. These people don't have any sense of consideration, and nor do they have any care or concern about anyone else. It's all about them. And again, that's the basis of narcissism, is that entitlement. So red flag number 3, and this is the important shift, is that most people think that abuse and mistreatment and bullying and narcissistic behavior starts with screaming, and it doesn't. It does start with somebody teaching you that your boundaries don't matter. It starts with disrespect. Right off the bat, they will make sure that they ignore your boundaries, they dismiss your wants and needs, pretend like they didn't even hear you say that, or if you sent it in a message or in an email, they won't respond to it. It's just basically saying to you in not so many words, unless they are an overt narcissist who will say it to you, that you don't matter. They don't care. What you want and need do not matter. And if you don't hear that through their actions, if you don't see that through their actions, then you will find yourself in some very, very unfortunate circumstances. So it really is very important that you understand how these manipulative people work to basically influence you in whatever way possible to ensure that they achieve the end that they are trying to get. Now, this takes us to sort of the red flag number 4. I thought I was just going to give you 3, but I'm going to give you an extra one. And that is what does happen when it does escalate. Because here's the thing. When you say no and you say no again, and maybe you're flexing and negotiating your boundary to try to accommodate and make everyone happy and be the diplomatic person in the situation, they're not interested in diplomacy. They're not interested in being appeased. They want what they want, and that's that. So they will get you to understand how serious they are by becoming more provocative, maybe even vulgar, becoming very, very audaciously bold, and not in a good way. And this is to provoke you either to bend to their will or to scare you enough to threaten you, to punish you basically for not jumping when they say jump, for not accommodating what they want you to do. So please be aware of this. And also please be aware that sometimes, I'm not trying to scare anybody, but sometimes these people can become very, very dangerous. Sometimes those last ditch efforts, those threats and those provocative remarks that they make at the end because they're very angry that you said no and you meant no, sometimes they do follow through on that. In which case, I highly advise you to always keep all of the text messages, all of the social media messages, comments, posts, whatever it is, any voicemails, anything at all that you have as so-called evidence, keep it on a Google Drive, keep it on a jump drive, just keep it somewhere just in case. And please do make sure that other people are aware of what's going on, whether that be your spouse or partner, your best friend. If it's something at work, if you don't feel comfortable going to the supervisors, please contact somebody that you work with. Everyone has that work bestie. Just make sure somebody knows what's going on and somebody has access to the evidence that you are keeping. Just keep some sort of a paper trail just in case. So with that all said, I just want you to know that, for years I thought it was me. And I'm sure you think if you're in this situation that it's you as well. I thought I needed better explanations, better words, better timing. Maybe if I presented it differently or was more, affirmative about and stern about how I set my boundaries, but that's not it. I needed to trust the voice inside of myself the very first time it whispered, something isn't right here, because we all have that. People call it anxiety sometimes. Some people call it intuition. Maybe it's your gut instinct. My great grandma used to say it was the guardian angel whispering in your ear, but whatever it is, learn to understand that when something feels off and when it disrespects you or threatens your peace and your safety, this is not a person that you want to engage with if you don't have to. And I would highly recommend just cutting ties altogether. So if this is something that you have endured or are enduring, again, no, you're not alone. My Power Shift Diagnostic Quiz, which you will find at danasdiaz.com, actually goes into revealing the subconscious beliefs that make us ignore these red flags and doubt our instincts, and even sometimes make us feel like we have to apologize for protecting ourselves, which is silly. So hear me and hear me loud and clear. You have permission to say no. You are allowed to have wants and needs because they matter and you matter. So do not feel the urge to explain yourself for setting a boundary. You don't need to justify setting a boundary. You don't need to provide any explanation, honestly, because it could just be no, because you just don't wanna. You are allowed to make decisions for yourself that are the best for you, and you don't have to bend to everybody's will, particularly people that are only benefiting from taking advantage of you. So with that said, again, I advise you to go to danasdiaz.com, take the quiz, find out what subconscious beliefs are driving those self-sabotaging actions, decisions, and behaviors. And please, while you're there, go ahead and take advantage of the free download of the first 2 chapters of my debut memoir, Gasping for Air, The Stranglehold of Narcissistic Abuse. That best-selling and multi-award-winning book delves into the 25-year relationship I had with my first husband, wherein I was on my own journey of going from a very people-pleasing, approval-seeking, codependent into learning how to navigate the world and life and these manipulative and toxic people by finding trust and love and respect within myself, because I want that for everybody that is watching. And so I hope that you will go and check these things out and come back next week when I release another video about how to navigate life with these people.